here with Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride, so excited. You were telling people that kids should eat with their hands, which is funny because our daughter, I think because she watches dog shows, started eating off the floor like a dog, and my husband was like, you should eat with silverware. Now I'm going to go home and say, no, I guess you should be able to eat like a dog because you say so. I don't know. What do you think? Tell me why you said put away the silverware.
Maybe not on the floor.
Okay, but on a plate on the floor.
Well, because all senses in the human body need to be involved. All senses.
You said that connects with the midbrain. What does that mean?
Midbrain is a part of the brain which is responsible for our personality, emotional profile, and for self-confidence. Mm-hmm. And it's particularly vital for a baby and a small child to develop this part of the brain. And when they're allowed to eat with their hands, when they're allowed to properly experience food and use all their senses, their sense of sight and smell and touch and taste and proprioception, then the midbrain receives full information from the food and it develops properly. Okay. It blossoms. It's like a flower.
So you said like put away the jar, like the worst thing you could do is, you take the spoon in the jar and you put it in your kid's mouth. What do you do with a 6-month-old? What should you do with them?
You just whenever you eat as a family, whatever the child is pointing or wanting to try, you just put bits on his tray and let him get on with it.
What do you think of these packets on the shelves at the grocery store now, the squeeze packets that they just squeeze the food out of?
Terrible.
Terrible?
Terrible. The nutritional composition is terrible, and it's terrible for the development of the child. Food needs to be wholesome, home-cooked, made from good ingredients.
Last question. If you do the opposite, so you do the squeeze packs, you live the modern, like, on-the-go life, and you're thinking, okay, yeah, maybe I'm shortchanging my kid nutritionally, but you may not be realizing all of the developmental issues that you talked about today. What are the things, the challenges that your child could face developmentally because of that very simple process of eating that you're not getting the full experience?
The child received limited information about the world. And based on that limited information, the child will not feel safe in the world. It'll know that it's surrounded with so much more information that it doesn't know, has never received, has never been familiarized with. So they will not feel safe in the world. They will have low self-confidence. They may be depressed. They may be clingy, fussy with food, and have all sorts of other problems.
It gets into consciousness and quantum physics, so it has that spiritual component as well, because our thoughts can change energy.
Anything else you want to add about that specifically that you think parents may not be familiar with that relates to just letting kids eat with their hands?
We are part of nature, but we've been plunged into this technocratic world, which is telling us that we, technocracy, are the progress, and everything we give you is right, and everything in nature is dangerous and terrible, and stay away from it. That is the big betrayal, the big lie. Technocracy only brings disease and only brings degeneration of humanity. The more gadgets we get, the more degenerated humans become. So we have to move away from technocracy. We need to understand that we are part of nature. Do animals in nature use knives and forks? Do they separate themselves from food? Do they even cook food? And if you look at the traditional indigenous tribes of people who still exist on our planet, they all eat with their hands. They never use cutlery.
So this goes for you adults too, right? Adults too. Okay, thank you, Dr. Appreciate it.
That's a pleasure. Yeah.
All right. If you're on Locals, you're getting this first. So if you're watching this somewhere else, don't forget alsamaro.locals.com, where you can be on my editorial board $5 a month and go one-on-one with the most censored people on the internet. It's a great way to support my work. We are at the Wise Traditions Conference, Weston A. Price Foundation Wise Traditions Conference in Kansas City, Missouri. And I just finished listening to Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride. She developed the GAPS concept. GAPS concept is gut and psychology syndrome. If I'm getting it right, the basis of it is that your gut and your brain are like the same thing. Your gut sends signals to the brain, and so if you have a messed up microbiome, you have messed up gut bacteria, then you have a messed up brain. And that means all kinds of things. Addiction, psychological issues, and then also like autoimmune problems, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I just showed you what she said, which I found the most interesting part of her talk, was that we should all eat without our silverware. I mean, if you're out and about, you're at a restaurant with people, you don't want to eat with your hands, she says fine. But at home, that eating should be a full sensory process. I thought that was like one of the most interesting takeaways, and especially for children, that we have sanitized eating for kids over the years and made it just like a fast process as a step towards the other things that we're trying to do during the day, and that's like the worst possible thing you can do for a developing child, not just for nutrition purposes, but actually for their development. That eating should be a full sensory project, and it should be an end in itself, not a means to an end. Not just like we're eating in order to fill ourselves up, but we're like eating to eat. That eating is the journey and the destination all in one, and we should be more mindful and present about it. And that our kids, interestingly, like our kids, my actual kids, but collectively all of us and our kids, have this innate sense about that. And I was just thinking about how our oldest producer, who's 3, she likes to eat with her hands, and actually she likes to eat like an animal. Like she likes to eat like the horses and the goats and the dog, and so we've been like, oh, you need to use your fork and spoon, but actually we were wrong. According to Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride, that she actually knew better than we did, that you don't get the full experience of the food benefits if you're not engaging with the food with all of your senses. And you don't even know what you should be eating or shouldn't be eating. That your body, the healthy working body, the idea is, would know what it needs. But you can't know if it's just looking at the food. It only knows by touching it and smelling it and tasting it and considering it with all of your senses. So anyway, I think what I'm going to be doing with these videos as we're here, some live streams with just walk around and talk to people. But I think if it makes sense, and tell me on Locals if this makes sense to you, it just grabbing people while there's a huge line of folks trying to talk to them seems like the best way to handle the situation, is to just get like one main thing that was a big takeaway that we don't hear them talk about very often, get them to talk about this, and then I'll kind of give you my thoughts on it in the same video, and then those will be recorded. So that's what I'm gonna do here. So these are my main takeaways from her talk. She says that neurotransmitters go from the gut to the brain. I think that's what I heard. And as far as autism is concerned, kids are born totally healthy, and they get this toxin overload and or imbalanced microbiome, and that creates these box diagnoses, autism, ADHD, which are really just a problem with the gut and the brain connection due to bad microbiome. And that's the premise of the GAPS concept. And by the way, right after I was talking to her, a young woman, a 17-year-old, came up and gave her a hug and started crying, saying she changed her life, that Dr. Campbell-McBride had changed her life because her parents found out about the GAPS diet, and she was having all these problems, and now she wants to be like a GAPS trainer, and she's gonna like dedicate her life to talking to other young people about this because it made such a difference for her. She says that epilepsy is actually a brain cleansing procedure, and that the last thing a kid needs is anti-epilepsy medicine, unless they're having like multiple grand mal seizures daily, in which case it's a life-threatening issue and they have to be on medicine. She said that is actually the brain cleansing itself of toxins. Okay, that's interesting. She says addiction, basically the whole premise, like underlying addiction, is a problem with your bacteria in your gut, basically, and that I'm going to go to my addiction part here, these pathogenic microbes will turn food into toxins, especially if you're eating processed starches. But starch generally, she had like potatoes up on the list, and carbohydrates, that you eat too much of this stuff and you just start basically getting addicted to it, that it's just as addictive, if not more, than like heroin, sugar is. And anyway, the microbes, these pathogenic microbes that are encouraged by this type of food and the sugars will turn the food into toxins, like whatever you eat. And you get this rush of endorphins and morphines. And then that creates like this sense of addiction, I guess. And then that translates then into other addictions. Gambling, she even said, not just like a drug addiction, but like gambling addiction, any kind of addiction. And she said all addiction is rooted in that. And that it's very difficult to treat addiction. She said that all food allergy is leaky gut, basically your food being absorbed undigested. You have a leaky gut wall because, once again, this imbalanced microbiome, and your food gets into your bloodstream undigested and your immune system attacks it. That's the basis of all food allergy. That's what she said about that. And then because you have this damaged microbiome, you also have a lack of neurotransmitters, and so you don't have the same experience of the world. Like, again, this is kind of rooted in what we would call addiction. You don't produce serotonin, for instance, the way you should, so you look for something else to give you serotonin. Chronic disease is all autoimmune, and all disease originates in the gut. If your kid is a fussy eater, that is the first sign they're having this problem with this gut-brain connection. And again, that's when she started talking about how all sensory organs need to be involved. And so in this modern world, we're just like fast-paced, go, go, go. Give your kid just like these squeeze packs, or, to keep things clean. We want to just keep everything sanitized and like spoon out some baby food and like put it right in their mouth, and then it's just easier for us. We don't get a mess. And she showed this picture of the mom eating next to the baby, a total mess with a dog under the table, and she's like, that's the way it should look. Total mess, dog's cleaning it off the floor, everybody's a mess, but everyone's senses are involved in the process. Kids eating with the hands, mom's even eating off the table with the hands. Hey, now I feel a little bit better about the fact that I like graze off of my kids' plates all the time and just pick. That's how I eat. She says that develops a healthy midbrain. And so again, like we were talking earlier when you first heard her at the beginning of this video, that we are shortchanging our children developmentally, not just nutritionally, developmentally, when we don't let them make a mess and involve themselves in the food. And that by the age of 3, which Lily is, and she does help quite a bit, she loves cooking, that they should be cooking, they should be involved in the food making process. One thing we do with her, that I like to do with her, is she loves to crack eggs open. Now, here's the deal, parents. Like, when a 3-year-old cracks an egg open, egg gets everywhere, And so egg gets everywhere, and the sort of, I guess, natural, like, reaction in today's world, because we're all short on time, is that we can't do this anymore because we don't want to spend a half an hour, sorry, my feet are killing me, changing my sitting position. We don't want to spend a half an hour cleaning up the kitchen because we have other things to do. But that this should show us that there is a direct link between the way we live these modern, fast-paced lives and the problems that our kids are having, and then we have as adults raised this way. It seems so obvious to me now that we're a product of these very simple tasks that we just don't get to perform anymore as kids, because we just want to keep things efficient and fast and clean and sanitized, and then we get like stunted human beings. Oh, where have I seen those? So that's my big takeaway from her talk. That one last thing, kids, shouldn't be forced. Now, here's the problem. They shouldn't be forced to, she said, don't force them to eat things, or like naturally know what they want. The problem though is that then, like, when they get to the point where they've been raised on sugar and then they don't know anymore, then you have to intervene in that way. So she did talk about that, like the whole family has to be involved in changing the way things are done. But a kid sort of left to their own devices at a young age. I mean, obviously you don't want to give a kid something they're going to choke on, but the ideal way would be that the kid is allowed to fully engage with food and will kind of know, just like we would as adults if we weren't addicted and deprived sugar overdose robots. We would know too. So yeah, there's a readjustment period if you end up in a situation where your body has been derailed. But like I guess the ideal, she says, would be that like your body knows, and that your body can't know when you only sense like with your eyeballs. You just look at a menu, for instance, that you wouldn't really know what you should be eating. Anyway, that's my takeaway from Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride. Don't forget, Green Pasture is the business that brought me out here. Well, you guys helped me get out here. Thank you to everybody who donated to the travel budget, but they paid for my hotel and got me the press pass. See my press pass? Pretty cool. Back in the game. So don't forget, go to Green Pasture, the link, and get yourself some high vitamin D butter oil cod liver oil blend. It's what I do for vitamin D. It's a great product. If you use my affiliate link, I think they give me like 10% or something. But just go to Green Pasture and get it regardless of whether you use my affiliate link or not. If you're interested in learning more about the product, you think it would be something good for you. So thanks to them too. And that's all for now. So let me know what you think about this format, okay? And what you'd like me to do differently, or if you like this better. And I'm gonna be taking questions and stuff. This is the first person I've interviewed so far, so it kind of helping me see how the system is working. And it's like there's long lines of people that come to talk to them. So I don't really have a whole lot of time. I have like maybe like 5 minutes would be a lot of time with these people at this juncture. And I'm afraid to like wait until there's a lull because I don't know if they're going to leave the building. And so, I could ask them another time. Like I figure just get it now. And then if I see them again and I want to do something longer or want to do a live stream, I always have that, but at least just get them now. As a news director told me in Tampa once, protect the first live shot. So always protect like the first project, get it done, get it while you can, seize the opportunity, and go from there. So, all right. Thanks everybody. See ya with the next one.